Have you been able to find the optimal human diet, and is it a carnivorous style diet?
I believe it is a carnivorous diet, as close to 100% as the person concerned can possibly muster and maintain in their lifestyle, given that human beings are just that, they're human beings and there are stresses on them, and humans do live in an environment that's not the natural environment that they lived in as we evolved. Sure, all understood. The difficulty with this is you can't go to this body of evidence called nutrition science, human nutrition science. And the reason you can't go to that body of evidence is because it does not exist. There are mechanistic speculation studies of a short term under poor control. There are no long-term hard health outcome experimental intervention studies in human beings over multiple decades, kept under lock and key under proper observation in a laboratory setting to determine cause and effect. As such, we have an ideology, which is a prevalent ideology around human nutrition, and that prevalent ideology is based on consensus and not science, and it is bought and paid for. That's where the problem is. So to find what is actually likely, according to actual hard science, to be ideal for humans, health span-wise, lifespan-wise, all that kind of stuff, you actually have to go to a number of areas of science outside the so-called nutrition science fraternity. You need to go to comparative anatomy and physiology of human organ systems. You need to go to studies of the metabolic pathways. You need to go to anthropological evidences such as stable isotope testing from the collagen of long bones of skeletal remains of humans. When you do that and you look through all of that material, the result is pretty unequivocal. Also, you need to apply the lens of Darwinian evolution as a fact, an absolute irrefutable fact. Now, that does not preclude an original creation by some higher power or being or God, if you want to believe in that. I'm not saying that's wrong, but since that time, which is clearly a lot longer ago than what, for example, the Bible will tell us, there are processes going on in the human body, in the human genome. We are subject to natural selection pressures in the same way any other animal is, or any other bacteria even, or virus or anything. Not that a virus is a living thing, but that's for another day. So those are the things you look at, and all of those things point in the same direction. All of those things tell us that human beings are absolutely obligate hyper-carnivores.
I kind of agree in some sense that I'm not a huge fan of trying to science the human body as it relates to really anything. I don't like it in lifting. I don't like it in nutrition necessarily, although it does seem to have some utility. And from an observational standpoint, it seems like we can get closer to the truth sometimes on some stuff. Like, for example, people that are able to reach old age and be still have good vitality are usually smaller people. They usually don't have a lot of body weight on them. Like, we can kind of observe that.
Right, I'm doing well then. I'm good then.
There's not a lot of people that are 95 years old that are probably carrying around an extra 60 pounds of body weight, sure, and things like that. So, but those people, they're not necessarily using a carnivorous diet. So, like, I guess as long as you don't overeat, as long as you don't overconsume energy for like really long periods of time, it seems like you maybe get a pass to live a long and pretty good life.
Yes. Yeah. I think there is a value in not, for example, carrying extra body mass, not being, for want of a better term, overly adipose, overly fat or obese. Okay. All of those things will definitely lead you to a higher likelihood of an earlier death. I don't think anyone remotely sensible would question that. I think we would all accept that as being a pretty fair statement of fact. If you're over fat, then your likelihood of death for multiple different reasons per year of follow-up is going to be higher. Yes. So you can eat a reasonable diet in terms of the volume of effective actual energy that you're consuming, such that you are weight stable, and you might live 90, 100 years. Absolutely. When you talk to experts in comparative genetics and comparative anatomy and comparative physiology, and you say to those people, take modern lifestyles out of it, take all of this out of it, just looking at the human system as we can understand it at the molecular level and at the genetic level, if we just got out of our own stupid way, how long should a given living human being live? What is the lifespan of a human as determined by those things? Generally, the answer that comes back is around about 150, actually, for an average human life. That's what it should be if we would just get out of our own way. The only way really to do that is to eat a species-appropriate, species-specific diet predictably. Sure, there'll be outliers. There'll be people that will last 150 years drinking an 8-ounce bottle of scotch and smoking 2 packs a day. Absolutely. There'll be someone just to prove that wrong that does that. But we're talking about on average here. On average, the only way to achieve this is to eat the way you are designed to eat as a human being and to exercise appropriately, which means appropriate volume, appropriate intensity, appropriate rest days in between, which is another thing that many lifters get badly wrong. But again, that's also for another day. So I think what you're saying is true. Yes, absolutely. It's better not to be fat, but that doesn't mean that not being fat is optimal. Optimal is following your genetic gift, your evolutionary gift, following the way you are designed as a human being to interact with the world in which you live.
Power Project family, how's it going? I want to talk to you guys about Within You Supplements, which is developed by Mark Bell. The cool thing about Within You is that it's not a crazy supplement line which has a crazy amount of unnecessary supplements. They stick to what is necessary. Whey protein, electrolytes, and the electrolytes are dope because they have amino acids and they have zinc. Then there's fasting gum. So we talk a lot about intermittent fasting on the podcast, and this fasting gum has apigenin, rutin, and caffeine, which can actually help you prolong a fast. It's really freaking cool. It was developed by Mark and Joel Green, who we've had on the podcast multiple times. So you guys got to check it out. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at markbellslingshot.com. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject10 to save 10% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
As closely as possible in modern societies. Because let's face it, we cannot avoid the toxins that we've pumped into our environment. Entirely.
What you got over there, Andrew?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to remind people watching, if they really, really dislike what Bart's saying, go ahead and hit the thumbs down button. Get some more of that.
Don't do that.
Get some of that negative. It works out. All publicity is good publicity. But
that's right.
I did want to go back to some of the like tracking and the calories in, calories out thing. And I'm sure you've gotten this many times before, but I'm just curious to hear it, especially for our audience. But the example you gave about the person that is going to undertake this style of diet and they vastly undereat, and next thing you know, they feel like crap, their energy is probably going to be super low, and then they either yo-yo diet or they completely get off the diet and they say, it obviously didn't work for me. Yeah. In my opinion, when I see or when I hear about this example, I would see it more as user error, not the fact that like calories in, calories out doesn't work. So again, I'm sure you've heard this many times, but I'm curious to hear.
It's about nuance, Andrew, isn't it? It's about the nuance. It's about saying to someone, here is all the information you need. Okay. So just getting up and saying calories in, calories out is brilliant and will work. And that's what you should do. We're done here. Thanks very much. Join me next week when we'll talk about something else. That is irresponsible. That is not the information that person needs to responsibly manage their body composition. That is partial information, that is incompetent, that is irresponsible, and that should stop.
Okay.
I've never said anything different from that.
Yeah.
And so, okay, then I just want to go back. So just real quickly, or I guess maybe it can't be that quick, were you tracking prior to the 6,000 calories a day for 2 weeks? The reason why I ask is because to the best of your knowledge, and I have an idea how you were able to understand, but how do you know that you were in fact in a calorie surplus when you took away a lot of the, like, you said the pizza, and then I think you said the pints of beer.
So number one, the volume of both food and alcohol put together that I was consuming, if you use 7 kcals per gram of alcohol, and if you use 4 kcals of energy for carbohydrates, which is not particularly accurate, and if you use 4 kcals of energy per gram of protein, which is vastly, hugely, totally inaccurate, then on a back of an envelope calculation, my caloric intake typically, fairly stably for the 6-12 months or so prior to that 2 weeks, was, without actually tracking it, so this is back of an envelope, this is what I'm eating, and I'm being honest with myself, 2,100 to 2,350, give or take, per day total. The actual calorie intake during the 2 weeks was tracked according to the labels, the chit that the steaks come in, and there's a plastic over that and there's a label on it that says this is what's in it. I was using those figures and cross-checking a bit with weighing it because I know about the 20% error. And the range was 6,000 to 6,500 for that 14, 15 days. I can't remember whether it was 14 or 15 days. That's why I keep saying 14 or 15. Doesn't matter. That's not really the point. So yes, it was a pretty accurate guesstimate of what was really genuinely going on. So yes, I did increase my effective so-called caloric intake by 3.5 times over.
How did you personally find the carnivore diet?
I really enjoy it. It's something that I would adhere to the 95% adherence level pretty much all the time, and I have done now for about 7 years. The only things that typically remain in my diet now that are not carnivorous is I drink coffee, and I like to have a kind of tzatziki style thing with my meat, which is really just unsweetened Greek style yogurt, which is fine and is carnivorous, but there's a very small amount of very finely chopped garlic in it. So I know I have to hand in my carnivore card and report for public naming and shaming. I never really was a carnivore and I did it wrong anyway. If you like, fine. And then there's the occasional splurge on some corn chips or potato chips. And I might occasionally have maybe 5 or 6 units of alcohol after a game of sport on a Saturday.
How did you come across this?
The carnivore diet was a natural progression from my sort of 27-year history or so now of ketogenic lifestyle. The first time I heard about it was when I saw the classic Jordan Peterson podcast with Joe Rogan. And I went, yeah, that makes sense. I'll check into it because I'm a scientist and I want to make sure that, this is not going to lead me to huge nutrient deficiency. I'm not going to die of scurvy or get bum cancer or something like that. And so I checked into it a little bit and went, yeah, this is fine. I'm going to do that. And I've never looked back. It's made a huge, incredible difference to many aspects of my health without any question. And I find it's something that's easy to adhere to a relatively high percentage level. It's not problematic. It's not a distress or a chore. It's really, it's just a perfectly normal part of my life now. It's not even a diet. It's a lifestyle. It's how I do nutrition, by eating meat. And when I say meat, I mean muscle meat. I don't eat organs at all. So it's muscle meat, associated fat, and selected dairy products basically is the basis.
So for yourself, why is it that fruits and vegetables are out of the picture? And why would you suggest that people also get it out of the picture?
Right. Okay. So there are 2 or 3 reasons, really. The first reason is fiber, dietary fiber, which is absolutely, apparently, contraindicated in the human diet. It is not helpful. It does not improve bowel function. There is only one even remotely pseudo-clinical study on this topic available, and it unequivocally clearly says the more fiber, the more gut dysfunction. Over a relatively short period, sure. But it's the result is so striking, so clear that it's very difficult to ignore it entirely. I personally, 7 years or so with basically, to all intents and purposes, no fiber in my diet at all. So clearly I haven't been to the bathroom for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
No. Once a day, every day, like clockwork, no stress, no strain, not even cut into stanzas. It's like the machine at McDonald's that does the ice cream. We're out of here, done, no problem. Perfect function.
Yeah.
Vastly better than it's been for my entire life, because I've had every digestive disorder you could possibly imagine at some point, all miraculously evaporated when I removed all the fiber from my diet. The next person maybe doesn't react to fiber as strongly as I do, but make no mistake, they will react to some level, and it will be a detractor on their health span, probably on their lifespan. It will be one of those things that determines that person does not make it to 150. One of many things, probably. So get it gone. You don't need it. It's not required. There is nothing in fiber that you can't live perfectly well and healthily without. It doesn't impact your bowel function negatively. That's fine. The second reason to avoid fruits is they contain a lot of carbohydrates, which are absolutely contraindicated in the diet. Exogenous carbohydrates above the individual tolerance level. The individual tolerance to carbohydrate is just that. It's a little bit individual. It depends on your age, your stage, your body size, your fitness level, your training status, the time of year. All of those things play into it, absolutely, and a bunch of other things as well. But make no mistake, you cross your tolerance level to carbohydrates and there will be a problem with your health in some way. It will probably present itself as weight gain, fat gain, I should say. Let's call a spade, fat gain, inflammatory increase, electrolyte disturbance, palpitations, muscle cramps, attention deficit problems, sleeping problems, those kinds of things. All the things that Paul Saladino suffered, basically.
Did you have more? I don't want to cut
Yeah, there's
you
one
off.
other.
Okay.
Many fruits contain seeds, which are perfectly safe if they pass through your alimentary tract unbroken. But if you chew those seeds up or those seeds are broken down and to any degree in your gut, those seeds will release toxins, vastly problematic toxins. So they're the three reasons why fruit is not required. And as a corollary, whatever the word is to that, there are people that will say, oh yes, but vitamin C though. Well, it turns out that if you're not consuming a bunch of carbohydrates, then your requirement for vitamin C is near zero.
Peeps, we love bringing you all this fitness information, and we also want to help bring that information to more people. So if you could help us out, hit that red subscribe button and then hit the notification bell, and we'll continue to bring you the heat. And I won't whisper in your ear. Talk to you guys later.